particularly allude to the issues around unaccompanied children and family reunification, because clearly if we leave the EU without some sort of agreement in place to participate in Dublin arrangements in relation to those matters, there will be no mechanism going forward to reunite unaccompanied children, asylum-seeking children elsewhere in the European Union with family members in the UK. And of course, members will feel all the more acutely concerned about this in the light of the decision in the last few days that the government has taken effectively to close the DUB scheme. So what's the government's thinking in this area? To what degree are ministers regarding decisions about the closure of the DUB scheme in the context of ongoing relationships and our participation in the Dublin arrangements?
Well, the way that we work closely with our European neighbours following Brexit in terms of all these issues will be central to the negotiations, and I'm sure the government will be working hard to get the best deal possible for the British people and deliver on the results of the referendum. I think it wouldn't be helpful to speculate further about how the negotiations might unfold, particularly as we're not yet sure what the position of the European Commission might be at an early stage of the negotiations. So whilst it's tempting to speculate, I think it's probably not the time to engage in that type of speculation.
But would you accept at least, and Mr Tomlinson alluded a few moments ago to the advice that's been received from the Anti-Slavery Commissioner, that there's a particular obligation on the government, irrespective of whether we do so through Dublin or through any other measures, that our obligation in international humanitarian terms, particularly in relation to children, is to secure their best interests and well-being. Are you concerned at all that this uncertainty about our future ability to participate in Dublin on terms that work for the UK could put that moral and indeed legal obligation to children under any pressure?
Well, we certainly are not supporting the new recommendations being brought forward under Dublin to have a mandatory redistribution scheme. But as I've already said, the Dublin arrangements work very well in terms of family reunification. But of course, the primary concern that this government has is helping people in region, and the 20,000 people, families including children, we're bringing across from Syria and the countries around Syria, and the wider scheme for 3,000 children and their families from the wider Middle East, North Africa area are central to our objective of not only helping those most in need, but also removing some of those pull factors which encourage people to enlist organised criminals and people traffickers to make those hazardous journeys across to Europe. And I'm absolutely convinced that our approach in terms of helping those people in region, the schemes we've got in place, are the right way to move forward.
I obviously appreciate what the government is doing in relation to children in the region, in conflict regions. Those children who are in Europe, irrespective of how they've made that journey, are entitled to the protection, the special protection that they enjoy as children too. But I note what you say, Minister. As the UK hasn't opted into the proposed Dublin 4 regulation, and if in the post-Brexit world we do want to have some kind of continuing engagement with the Dublin arrangements, how much leverage do you think that the government will have to resist any changes coming down the tracks which would make it more difficult for us to participate in Dublin post-Brexit?
Central to our negotiating position is to secure the best deal for the United Kingdom. The Dublin mechanism has worked well, I think, from everybody's point of view, and I hope that as the negotiations take place, we can come up with some measures which will be acceptable to people who understand the importance of this issue.
Thank you.